Welcome again, my dear students. This is Mama Sultanaki, Senior Lecturer of Milestone College, Department of Biology. Today I will discuss some more creative questions from which you will be benefited for your coming SSC exam. Now, our first creative question is, you can see there is colors of eye and height. It is enclosed by a square block, a rectangle block, and it is indicated by X. And Y, it indicates the chromosome, and Z, in this box you can see girls or boy, okay, and boy. The first question is, what is organic evolution? You know, the changes of an adaptation in organism which occurs for thousands of years for survival of the organism on this earth's surface is known as organic evolution. Now, why does DNA test is done? First of all, I also want to mention this creative question is from chapter 12. Okay. Now, why does DNA test is done? You know, DNA is the main component of chromosome. The scientific method of testing DNA is known as DNA fingerprinting. Nowadays, DNA test or DNA fingerprinting plays a vital role in medical science, in proper justification, in different purposes. Okay. Now, why does this DNA test is done? DNA fingerprinting or DNA test is done for identification of the parentalhood, that means motherhood or fatherhood of a child, and it also used for the identification of criminals. How does this can be done? It is done by the DNA sample is collected from the victim person, and also it is collected from the suspected person. Then these two DNA samples are matched, and if that is matched, then it can be determined that that person, the suspected person, is the criminal. Thus, the DNA test is helpful for identifying the criminals. Okay. Next, Y is the carrier for determining X. My dear students, you can see that X indicates color of eyes and height of human being or any other animals. Okay. Now, I have also mentioned that Y indicates the chromosome. You know, in the chromosome, DNA remain present. Not only that, chromosome carries the gene. Now, what is gene? Gene is the sign of unit which controls the sign and characteristics of any organism. Now, what kind of signs? This sign may be the color of eye, the height, the color of skin, or the combination of skin color. Okay, these different things are the factors that are controlled by these are the physical. These may be the physical characteristics or the internal characteristics, or all these types of characteristics are controlled by the gene. So, how does this Y carries these characteristics? Hence, chromosome carries gene, and gene is the controller of expressing these different types of characteristics of any organism or animal. That is why you can say that Y is the carrier. That means the gene or the chromosome is the carrier of determining different characteristics of any particular animal or any organism. Okay. You can write this answer more elaborately according to your textbook. Okay. Next, explain the relationship in between Y and Z. Now, my dear students, Y indicates chromosome, as I have told you, and Z indicates girl and boy. It may be girl or boy. Now, how does there sustain a relationship in between Y and Z? You know, in case of human being, we carry 23 pair of chromosome, and among these 23 pair of chromosome, one pair is sex chromosome and another 22 pair is autosome. This one pair of sex chromosome is different in case of male and in case of female. Now, in case of female, it is X and X. That means you can see that In case of female, it is X and X. Okay, and in case of male, it is X and Y. Okay. Now the question is, how does it play a role in case of maintaining or giving birth a girl or boy? This chromosome plays a vital role in case of determining the sex of any child or children. Okay. Now, as I have told you that the female carries X and X chromosome, but in case of male, they carries only one X and only one Y chromosome. Now, if I want to explain it by a chart, you can see that this will be like this. The answer will be, first of all, in case of a male and in case of a female, the male carries X and Y chromosome. When they form gamete, they become separated from each other, and in case of female, the both will be X and X. Hence, you know that when the gamete forms, they become haploid, and when the X of a male fused with the X of a female, it will produce X and X. And you can see from this chart that X and X indicates a female. That means the child will be a baby girl. Okay. Now, if these X also fuse with these X, it will also form X and X. That means this will also be a baby girl. But if this X, this Y fused with X, that will be X and Y. This will be a baby boy. And if this Y again fused with another X of a female, that will be also a XY. That means this will also be a baby boy. Thus, the Y and Y controls the sex of a child, whether the child will be a girl or a boy. Thus, there is a relationship in between Y and Z. So, my dear students, I think it became very much clear to all of you how does there is a relationship between Y and Z, and how Y is the carrier of X. So this is all about this creative question 1. Now, creative question number 2. X is a hereditary material in which nitrogen-based thymine is present, and Y is another hereditary material that is termed as factor by Mendel. You know, Mendel termed gene as a factor. So, the second part which is indicated, the second part which is indicated by factor, that is gene. And the first part, you can see that nitrogen-based thymine is present. You know, in case of DNA, thymine, adenine, guanine, cytosine and thymine, these 4 nitrogen bases are present. But in case of RNA, thymine has absent, and instead of thymine, uracil is present. So it is clear that the first component X is DNA. Now, first question: what is color blindness? Color blindness is a hereditary disease which occurs due to the abnormality of different genes. Now, color blindness is a disease or hereditary disease or a condition for which a person cannot identify different colors properly. Second point, question number B. What does it mean by polythalassemia? Polythalassemia, you know, what is thalassemia? Thalassemia is a disease for which the red blood cell become disintegrated. This is also hereditary diseases and occurs due to the different defects in hereditary material, such as in different defects in the genes. Now, why this polythalassemia occurs, or why it is known as Coolidge thalassemia. What does it mean by Coolidge thalassemia? Thalassemia is of two types: alpha thalassemia and beta thalassemia. It is termed as alpha or beta thalassemia on the basis of the protein alpha globulin or beta globulin that are produced in the or that are present in the red blood cell. If the beta globulin protein, the protein beta globulin that become disintegrated due to the defects of any disease or due to any diseases, that is called beta thalassemia. And another name of beta thalassemia is Coolidge thalassemia. So my dear students, what does it mean by Coolidge thalassemia? When this question is asked, then you will write first of all the definition, then you will write that this beta thalassemia is also known as Coolidge thalassemia. Now, creative number question C. Explain the structure of eggs as mentioned in the step. As I have told you at the beginning of this question, X indicates the DNA, structure of DNA. In my previous class, I have discussed the structure of DNA, but in my today's class, I will also explain the structure. First of all, you will write in the structure of DNA. DNA is a double helical structure, as like this. Okay, so DNA is a double helical structure and it is the polynucleotide. You know, in the formation of DNA, large amount of polynucleotides, they are combined together to form the structure of DNA. Now, what is nucleotide? You know, nucleotide is a unit which is composed of ribose sugar, that is 5 carbon, nitrogen base and inorganic phosphate. These three components combined form the nucleotide. Watson and Crick, these two British scientists, they explain the structure of DNA. Now, DNA, these two strands, these are antiparallel to each other. That means if one strand starts from 5' end, then it will end at 3' end. Then the another will be started from 3' and it will end up at 5' end. So, what are present in between these two strands? In between the two strands, nitrogen bases are present. Here, if adenine is present, their thymine will be here. If cytosine is present in one strand, then guanine will be present in another strand. So, adenine always bonded with thymine by 2 hydrogen bond. Cytosine always connected with guanine by 3 hydrogen bond. And in a complete loop, you can see in a complete loop the distance is 34 angstrom, and it is found that there are 10 nitrogen base pairs or nucleotides that are present in a complete loop. So what are the distances between two adjacent nucleotides? That is 34 divided by 10 it is equal to 3.4 angstrom. Another information is that this the radius in between these two strands is, it looks like a circle from the frontal view, and the diameter radius is 20 angstrom, and it is 20 throughout the whole structure. Okay, now it's the next question. So this is the structure, or this is the answer of question number C. Now, in case of question number D, Y is the controller of heredity. Analyze with logic. My dear students, you can see that as I have told you, Y is indicated as factor, and that is indicated as factor by Mendel. It is at present known as gene. So, how gene is the controller of heredity? You have to explain this answer with your logic. You will first explain right that you know that there are two types of gene. One is dominant gene, another one is recessive gene. Now, what is dominant gene? The gene that can express its characteristics in the first generation, that is known as dominant gene, and the gene that cannot express its characteristics in the first generation but can express its characteristics in the second generation is called recessive gene. Mendel proved that the gene carries the characteristics from the parents to their offspring, from generation after generation. He proved this with an experiment. Today I will discuss that experiment but in a simpler form. Okay? If we consider, there are two pea plants. One is tall, which is indicated by capital T and capital T, and another one is indicated by a smaller t. This character is dominant character and this is recessive character. Actually, when they will form gamete, they become separated from each other. Okay? So, for this experiment, he transferred the pollen from the tall plant to the stigma of the small plant. On the other hand, some pollen grain from the small plant or dwarf plant to the stigma of the tall plant. He also confirmed that no external pollination occurs in between these two plants, or rather than these two plants. So, when the first crop, when the first generation are produced, when they formed gametes and they fused with each other, they produce capital T small t. Again, it produces capital T small t. When they fuse, they produce capital T small t. They fuse, they produce capital T small t. My dear students, you can see all these plants, all these contain a capital T. And as I have told you that if capital T remain present, we along with a small t, the plant will be tall. Hence, it is a dominant character, or this gene is responsible for expressing their characteristics. That is why you can write here F1 generation. Okay? Generation. Now, so these are the F1 generation, and in case of F1 generation, all the characteristics will be all the dominant character. Though in their gametes, they carry the gene of or chromosome of dwarf plant or short plant. Again, Mendel did or performed another experiment with the plants of F1 generation. So now we can write the characteristics of F1 generation. So that was all them contain capital T and small t. So now we can write that capital T and small t, capital T and a small t. When they form gametes, they fused capital T, capital T. When it fused with this with small t. When it fused with this will produce. You can I just explain this with a checkerboard. Okay. I think it will be better. It will be better for your better understanding. Okay, if we consider this is a male plant, this is a female plant, then you know that in case of both the plant, the chromosome will be like this, or the genes, the chromosome will carry these two types of genes. So here capital T small t, capital T small t. If we consider this and if we consider this. Now when this T, they fused, they will form both capital T. And when they fuse, they will form capital T and small t. When this one and this one meet, they will form capital T small t, and these and this small t. So my dear students, you can see that in this case both the chromosomes are capital T and capital T. Both the genes are capital T and capital T. That means it will be definitely a tall plant. Hence, a single capital T is present, so it will also be a tall plant. This will also be a tall plant. What will be happening in this case? In this case, there is no capital T, that means no dominant gene. That is why this plant will be dwarf or short. So from this checkerboard you can see that the ratio in between tall and short is 3:1. 1, 2, 3, and here is another short. So the experiment proves that the gene that carries different characteristics of parents, both the parents, in case of transferring the characteristics from one generation to the next generation. In the first generation, the recessive gene couldn't express this character, but in the second generation, it can express its characteristics. It proves that the gene, that means the factor that is termed by Mendel, it is responsible for carrying different characteristics from one generation to the another generation. So my dear students, I hope from my today's lecture it will be very much beneficial for all of you, from where you can answer these types of creative questions. And I have discussed through by today's lecture, I have also made it clear to all of you the experiments that was done by Mendel. What does it mean by color blindness, then thalassemia, and the structure of DNA. All this I have mentioned. Beside my lecture, you will follow your textbook and go through the book. I hope that will be also useful for you for answering different types of MCQ. So this is all for today. In my next class, I will be back with a new lesson. Till then, take care.